So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi villains and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. As you can see, we're messing around with new backgrounds, new season, new look, new backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. When Paddy got the jerseys up in his background, I was kind of saying to myself, it's probably time to freshen up our background on the podcast as well. And to avoid any controversy with the badge and stuff like that, you might be able to see the light little silhouette of the rampant line behind us there as well. But yeah, so look, we said we were going to come on. Myself and Paddy have been talking about doing a season review. We're not doing a season review at this stage. I think we're probably, when it's 19 days or 18 days now to Walsall, I think we're probably past the point of no return for a season review for 2022. What do you think, Paddy?
I think so, and I'm on the beach, and I'm going to take a couple of weeks off podcasting. I'm going to leave you to all your transfer podcasts until Walsall, and looking forward to being with the feet up for a while. But yeah, it's too late for season review, I think. So, like, in fairness, we review every game anyway, and every bit of news that comes in. So there's probably no point. And everybody else has done it to death, so it's grand. But look, we'll get on to more pressing matters, I think.
Exactly.
And
those pressing matters are Paddy's squad stay or go. And as you know, I'm partial to always spelling things incorrectly. So if you were looking for a sat and go podcast, as per Twitter, well then I'm sorry, you'll have to tune in tomorrow when Paddy's not here for a sat and go.
Well, I'm sat now, then I'm going to go and I'll take a couple of weeks off. How's that?
Exactly. Well, yeah, so we said we'd take a look at the current squad that we have. I've taken the full squad from basically from the Premier League page of any of the players. And I would presume if they're on the Premier League page, these were players that were registered or were named in either the team sheet or traveled with the squad, because I think as per Premier League rules, Paddy, even if somebody doesn't make the team sheet, the two players that come, they still have to be named and essentially registered with the Premier League as well, even though they don't get named in the team sheet. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Even though I think everybody that's here was named on a team sheet at some stage, just in case they weren't. That would be one of the reasons why. Why yet? Gary Howlett says, "I see you aren't wearing the new top yet." That's because it's taken forever to get delivered to Ireland. But no, you released when last Thursday. Wednesday?
He's also asking to discuss. He obviously didn't watch our previous podcast, Gary. Come on now, keep up.
Gary, we've got Rob Warner and ourselves went to task on the shirt. Well, the one thing we haven't discussed, I suppose, really is the sponsor. I don't think we're going to go through that tonight. We've discussed it in previous podcasts as well, and it's raking old coals. It's shit. Look, it's simple as that. There's our podcast on it. But I can't change it, and you can't change it, and I just hope somebody does change it. Put it that way, at some stage soon. But we're talking today about the squad, stay or go, and I do have something that I want to share up with you guys, and this is it. As you can see, my beautiful canvas screen. With actually, can I edit that? Let's look. Do you want to see some live editing? As we're doing this podcast? No, I can't make it smaller. I was thinking I might be able to take it out, but I discard those changes. All right. So basically what we have is we've all the players that we thanks very much, Matt Hanlon. Really appreciate that. Points for podcasters and hello lovers. Was that what we decided to call lovers? Yes, remember we were looking for a name for the podcast followers. I think lovers is what we'll go with. Yeah. I think there was what was it, something to do with God as well, parishioners, I think, or something like that was another one, but I think we'll go with lovers. But today Matt wants to be called Paddy Cakes, so I'll take that one too as well. I'll take that one.
Cheers, Matt.
So what we have here is, and my reasoning for this is because I want to live edit as we're going through. Anyway, I'll worry about that in a moment. But what we have is we've all the players. We're going to get Paddy to go through them. Obviously, some of them we'll talk about. Some of them we won't talk that much about. But Paddy's going to tell us who needs to stay and who needs to go. I'm only going to offer a tiny bit of commentary in this because I'm going to be honest with you, lads. I'm not feeling great at the moment. I don't know. I think I'm coming down with something. So this is a rare podcast because you guys are going to be sick of listening to me for the next however long. While Paddy's taking a break from the podcast, the floor is all yours, Mr. Kelly.
Well, first of all, there will be another category of loan, so we might decide to loan
I'll have
someone
to
out.
find an element for that. So okay, right, yeah, let me work with that. I'm doing producer today, so okay.
I suppose if you're loaning, it still comes under stay. How's that?
No, I'll find an icon that I'm going to pop up on the screen for these guys.
Okay.
Go back and we can see how many. Because no, Paddy, he could get a Figueroa and sell off half the squad. So,
It won't come to that, I promise.
Okay. Well, let's start with Emiliano Martinez, Paddy.
Well, I think this is probably the easiest one of all the squad, and that's a big green tick because he's going nowhere.
Emiliano Martinez is here to stay. Now, Mr. Olsen, Paddy.
Well, you couldn't have started with two easier ones, I suppose. One stays, one goes.
Okay, you think Mr. Olsen is out the gap? Do you think there's any way he stays? Like, I look, call a spade here. Like, you know, we don't want like. Is there any point? Like, if let's just say somebody doesn't like, if we can't get any money from him, is there any point in selling him?
Well, I personally think if he doesn't get any money for him, he'll let him out on loan somewhere. That's just my opinion. That's what I think he'll do, and that's what I'm going to base all of this on, is what I think Professor Unai will do. So
Okey-doke.
my opinion is he will try and offload Olsen one way or another, be it with getting money in, which is obviously the important bit. So if you get money in, it'd be great. Also, if you send him out on loan, it gets him off the books, the wages. So either way, I'm okay with that. But I do believe that he will do everything he can to get him out the door.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that. And one thing I must make you aware of, Paddy, as well, obviously being in European competition now, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to bear in mind homegrown players, keeping a certain amount of them. I'm blanking completely on what the rules are at the moment regards to homegrown players in European competition, but I will effort in the background and try and bring up the rules, and we can discuss it afterwards with regards to that. So we'll continue on and we'll just bear that in the back of our mind. So Mr. Sinisalo, do you think he gets another loan? Do you think he stays? Do you think he...
I think Mr. Sinisalo stays this time round. I think it's time to, for the want of a better expression, shit or get off the pot. So I think he stays around this time, and a lot of that will have something got to do with the fact or do with whoever he decides to bring in. I think he's a lot of faith in him, and I do believe he will get opportunities in this season, and it'll probably come in cup competitions. You know, if we qualify for the Conference League and we're already qualified, I think that's when he'll be thrown in there. Absolutely. And spoiler alert, I have the same reply for the guy that comes after. It all depends on if another goalkeeper comes in. I think he may go out on loan, but he's definitely staying. And also, I think we need to keep the last one as well, because our underage teams have to have a goalkeeper.
Well, it'd be handy if they did. That's no pun intended with the handy piece. Yeah, look, colour me shocked, Paddy. I can't believe that you've picked all that on the very first slide. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a bombshell show. No, everything. I think a betting man would have kept the money in his pocket for this, because it was a simple choice, I think, for a lot of these guys with regards to what was going to happen, and rightly so, because goalkeepers are very important. But I do think somebody new will come in for Robin Olsen. Going to move it on. Defenders. I'm expecting probably more discussion regards to this. We obviously know there's one person gone here, unless you think he's going to be brought back. So I'm going to put the red X through Ashley Young, because he ain't here at the moment. This is the squad, obviously, from last season. So Matthew Cash, Paddy.
Matthew Cash, I think he stays.
I think he does too. I know there's a lot of talk about potential. You know, I think. Look, I suppose I'm going to say this beforehand. I think 100% of our squad is upgraded. You know, and there's a like. I don't think there's a squad in outside of Man City that doesn't have an upgradable squad, essentially. So Matty Cash, I think, stays. I think there's no way he goes unless it's mega money.
And
Diego
I think
Carlos.
I'm influenced there because we have obviously that big red X through Ashley Young. So I think I think we're going to see Matty Cash plus another in there. As we say here in Ireland, another on the programs. So we will probably, I have no doubt in my mind, we'll sign a right back. So that will be 2 right backs. It'll be Matty Cash plus 1 more. Diego Carlos is staying.
Mr. Carlos is staying. Yeah, Mr. Kanza.
Now, here's the bombshell. This is the one I think could be sold. Ezri Konsa.
Ooh.
Just on the basis of Diego Carlos coming back into full fitness, getting a full preseason ahead of him, plus all the signs are that we're going to sign another centre half. So I think if there's money to be had, then Ezri Konsa is or if someone needs to make way, it will be Ezri Konsa.
Right. So yeah, it's going to cause conversation, Paddy.
Well,
it's going to cause conversation.
There has to be a little bit of give and take. We can't keep them all.
It does.
So,
we can't keep them all. Is right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, we'll come back to it afterwards because I still haven't been able to find the article with regards to the UEFA, and I'm completely blanking. I'm not even going to ask you about Tyrone Mings because they're going to keep him, I presume.
Of course.
Mr. Moreno.
Moreno stays as well.
Now, you love Callum Chambers, Paddy.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Callum Chambers. Didn't have the greatest season this year. I don't believe he has the faith of Mr. Emery, so I think there's a bag of cash beside him too.
Okay, so he's going to be somebody that's going to be sold. Luca Dean.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. I think if the right offer comes in, I think Luca Dean gets sold. I have very little to base that on other than he's going to put all his eggs in the basket of Alex Moreno. I think Luca Dean selling is a sellable asset worth a decent amount of money that could free up us bringing in a relatively unknown left back for little money. And I think that's what might happen.
I'll put it here to you. What happens if Alex Moreno's injury, if he's not right? Like, he's not going to be playing against Walsall. I'd be surprised if he's going to be fit enough to play the US tour. Does that have any bearing, do you think, on Luca Dean?
It depends who he has to come in. I just think this is one of the saleable assets that he could, and bear in mind the huge wages that Luca Dean is on. I just don't see him as somebody who he sees he could leave as a backup on those kind of wages and justify it to the board. So he is the one that's the reason why I have the bag of cash beside him. Okay, for sure. I'm just decided a new graphic. Okay, and the reason I did here is because Sil Sprinkles, I think it's fair. Like, for anybody that you think will still will be kept, but will be on the youth team, we're going to use the little baby symbol. All right. So, and the reason I've popped that in there for Sil Sprinkles is just to bear in mind for him. He's been given a new 1-year contract, and he also has an ACL. He also did his ACL at the end of last season. So, what do you make of Sil Sprinkles? Yeah, still too young. Still probably a year early before making any call on him. I would definitely hang on to him for another year, be it in the underage setup or send him out to play big boys football, depending on how his injury is. But I would definitely give him 1 more year. And what about Seb Revan? Seb Revan, a couple of times. Yeah, obviously has a bit of trust in him. Obviously, he didn't get on the pitch too many times, but a left back too. Pardon? A left back as well. We just a left back. Yeah, and a homegrown left back. So for that reason, I think there's a green tick beside him. Okay. All right. So the defense, I suppose really Ezri Konsa are going to be the only real talking point there. I think Luca Dean will split the fan base there, only for the context. Like, if Alex Moreno didn't rip his hamstring off the bone or whatever he did last at the end of the season, I think most people will probably be saying, listen, if we get money for Luca Dean, he's a saleable asset at 31, if not 32. I think he's still a saleable asset. But yeah, I can't disagree with an awful lot that you've mentioned there. I do think Callum Chambers' time might be thinning, specifically if we're like Pau Torres will hopefully be in
a card there next year. You know, that's another left-sided player, another left-footed player there as well. Yeah,
I know I'm going to get a lot of stick about Konza, and I'm okay with that. Fire the stick at me. It's grand. But the one thing in Konza's favour is he will still be about the club until we sign a right back, because we know he can cover there.
absolutely. I think so for sure. Although I did a podcast in Thomas Munier recently whereby I look back at all of Emery's right backs since his time at Sevilla. And the only time he's ever really played that inverted right back is at Villarreal with one fight. So I don't know whether he actually really wants to do that or whether it was a horses for courses thing. Where is Ken Kessler? Good question. Ken Kessler wasn't named on any team for the wasn't named in any squad in the Premier League last season. So this is only made up of players that were named in the Premier League squad. Ken Kessler, I would imagine. Paddy, let's talk about him. We don't have the graphic up here for him.
Yeah, I think he's in. I think he's in a bit of bother. I think his loans this year hasn't really worked out for him after having a really good season last year, and I wouldn't rule him out on those grounds. I think there's a possibility that he gives him one more loan for the first 6 months of the season to see how he gets on. I don't envisage him being shipped out or anything like that, but I think he could be loaned for the first half of the season, definitely.
Yeah, he's I'm just looking to see anybody else that was out on loan that we can talk about as well while we're at that. So Ken Kessler, yeah. Lamar Bogard was at Bristol Rovers last season. He's obviously come back.
Still very young. I envisage you might try him at another loan as well. I don't think his loan went really too well for him this time around. And the same, Josh Feeney is there as well. Probably a bit too young to be shipping out, given the potential they see in him and the previous manager saw in him. So I would imagine he'll stick around the squad or go out on loan as well.
Here's one for you, Paddy. Ben Crescene, the unpronounceable Ben.
I'm not. I don't think there's enough faith there. I think if an offer came in of any kind, I think he'd be out the door.
Another left back. That's all I'm saying is another left back, like, you know. So anyway, we'll get on to those players. Obviously, there won't be cards here for them, but good call on that. We will discuss those as they do come up. You know, obviously, there's players like Kerr Smith and all those who are very young that we know are under contract.
Exactly.
We're not going to be discussing Rory Wilson when it comes to strikers because we know they aren't going anywhere. Or Caden Young and those kind of guys. Cool. So let's move on to midfielders, Paddy. So we've Mr. Douglas Luiz.
So how many green ticks can we fit on the one page here?
Okay, so we're going to say,
you can keep a green tick for John McGinn.
Jonathan, yeah.
I think you can keep a green tick for Emi Buendia as well.
Oh, do you think so?
I do.
It's not Neil's Stay or Go podcast, but if it was, I think that okay. I think if an offer came in there, let's just say Saudi Arabian team were offering 25 million for Emi Buendia, I think Aston Villa would I think that they would accept. But anyway, that's beside the point.
I think that could be said about a lot of players in the team, but however,
yeah.
Especially the next one that we come to, where I do think there's a big bag of cash beside him.
I'm just gonna rob with pride from the other slide. So, do you think he ends up in the desert?
I honestly don't know. I've a feeling he'll be moved on based on the wages that he's on, and he's just having no luck with us with injury. Now, I've said it many times, he needs a good preseason to see if we can get longevity out of him. At the moment, the jury is well and truly out, so that's why I've got the bag of cash there.
Yeah, interesting. And you've been a long believer that if we were to do business with a Portuguese club, that he might be used as a make-weight, being Brazilian and you know, still having a high enough profile. Leander the Donker.
This is a difficult one. Because we have bought Yuri Tielemans, I am going to put a bag of cash beside the Donker.
There we go. Jacob Ramsey. I'm not even going to ask you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and the next one.
Waste of time there as well. Tommy O'Reilly, somebody who Stephen Gerrard absolutely loved.
Yeah. I'm going to go to loan on Tommy O'Reilly. I think he's still a little bit young. Just need to see what we can get out of him.
There we go. Look at that. Perfect. Perfect logo for a loan. Perfect. Tommy, there you go. And we've no Millie Ednek, Paddy, to see where he goes on loan. Millie Ednek. Well, I suppose it made perfect sense, Millie Ednek going to work with Ange Postecoglou, because considering that Millie Ednek would be able to translate Australian and be able to tell the rest of the players, because he speaks Australian as well. So I was messing with Matt Hayes. Matt Hayes has been on the podcast a couple of times. He does a Spurs blog. And we were chatting yesterday when it was mentioned that Johan Lange was at Spurs training ground, and we were talking about, was it Lo Celso? And then when the news broke this morning about Jedinek, I was like, oh, but of course we should have seen that one coming, because of course he speaks Australian. But anyway, Travis Patterson.
Travis Patterson, I'm going to say stick around, because we obviously need some youth team players.
He's more of a striker anyway, really, in the midfielder.
Yeah,
like
true.
He's more of an attacking player there as well. Caden Young, I'm just going to put a green tick behind him. I know we said we weren't really going to discuss him, but I don't think we will. Now, the next guy I think is somebody people would like to hear your opinion on. I'm listening because I've got you on my headset. I've got something here that's going to start beeping, so I'm going to try and find a charger for it. So I'm still listening to you. So talk for a while on Jed and Philogene Bides.
Well, I don't know how long I can talk about him, but my opinion on Jaden Philogene Bides is he has shown great potential out on loan. He's obviously got something about him. He's homegrown, which leaves me in the camp that we're going to keep him sticking around. So from my point of view, thinking of the future and the possibilities of what this guy could do, I am going to keep him in and around the squad, and I see him getting a little bit of game time, especially in the preseason friendlies, to see what he's good, what he's up to, and how much he's come along on the loans that he has been on. So, did I fill enough, Neil? No. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a couple more, because there's a few missing out of this list. So I'm going to make these as easy as possible. So Morgan Sanson, I'm going to say will be sold. Marvelous Nakamba, I'm going to say will be sold. Tim Iragbunam, I think will be brought back in to see what he's made of. Finn Azaz, I think will be sold. And I think Louis Barry will be sold. So that's a list there from Adam S. that he put on the side. I have a feeling Louis Barry might show up further up on the forward lineup if we get that far. If there's anyone else in the midfield I've left out there that we haven't covered. So what did I say? Sanson will be sold. Nakamba will be sold. Iragbunam will come back in. And then Finn Azaz and Louis Barry. I think the two of them are up in the air. I'd love to see Finn Azaz staying around, because I think there's great potential there. Plus, he's declared for Ireland, so I obviously want to see him doing very well. And Louis Barry just hasn't hit the ground running anywhere he's gone, so I think there might be a little bit of faith gone there.
Yeah, that's great. Filling out of you there, Paddy. But Finn Azaz, I don't think will be sold.
I hope not.
Like, unless I don't think he will be sold. I think he's somebody that could be kept around. Like, because once again, when we start looking at the homegrown player side of things, you need to be able to name a couple of them in your squad. I think Finn Azaz will be somebody that they might take a look at again, because he's just been prolific at the lower levels. Plymouth are going to be playing in the championship next season, if I'm not mistaken. So he might even be loaned back to Plymouth. Maybe that's possibly what we do. Yeah. I'm just not sure selling him coming off a League One season is probably the best thing to do. If you get a loan to the championship team, and we re-up his contract, and then flog him off then. Kind of like what we've done with Keenan Davis. Keenan Davis isn't on this list either when we come to the next part, but Keenan Davis is somebody we'll discuss, because let's not get too
and look,
over the skis.
Some people are.
Did you say about Philogene Bides? I did hear you, but I can't remember what you said. Do you think he's?
I think he stays.
You think he stays?
Yeah. He definitely stays until the very last minute of the transfer window, where he might go on loan, but I reckon he'll get a good look at him between now and the transfer window closing. like people are entitled to their opinion. There's fellas messaging there saying, no, I don't agree. That's absolutely fine. I'm just trying to put myself in the mind
Yeah.
of what Unai Emery might do. This is not necessarily my opinion. If I had to make a call on Finn Azaz, I would keep him in the squad because I really, really, really like him and I really want him to do well. But time is running out, and he only has, I think, he's 12 months left on his contract, so a decision will need to be made.
Did you say Tim stays around, obviously, or do you think he
I
goes out
did.
on loan again?
Yeah. I think Tim is in the same boat as Philogene Paddys. I think he'll look at him in pre-season and have a good hard look at him before he decides what to do. But I do believe he'll go out on loan again. I think he's one for the future, but he's not quite ready yet. I did have the privilege, I'll say, on a freezing cold December night of sitting in Loftus Road watching him play in Luton Town, and he was average, I suppose is the best way to describe it, but hard to put your finger on how good he actually is, given the fact that QPR are an absolute shit show this season.
We never spoke about somebody who was a big favourite of mine at the time, was Courtney House. I think his contract, like I'd imagine he ain't coming back to Villa after what happened between himself and Watford, although it seemed to have been a Watford issue there. But I would imagine that Courtney House is not sticking around at Aston Villa. I would imagine I think his contract might even be up anyway. But I just said I'd mention him. And I can't believe everybody listening in the comments, no one mentioned him as far as I can see. Poor old Courtney has been completely forgotten about.
I think he has a year left now, Neil.
I think he maybe he does. I can't remember whether we re-upped his contract in the January and then January before, just after Steven Gerrard came in. But I think we re-upped his contract then, added an extra year to it. And I just can't remember what the story is with it. But I think that he probably said,
you know, I'd hate to see us do a dirty on him. I'd like to see him be given every opportunity, or giving him whatever he wants in pre-season. If he wants to go, let him go for a free if that's what he wants, because he's really had a shit time this season. So I do like him. I loved him as a player, loved him as a person. Wasn't too fond of his singing and rapping skills, but other than that, he seems like a really good guy, and I really want him to do well. But I don't think he's up to this level. So I do think he's going to go out the door. I just hope to do the right thing by him.
That's mad. Just as I said, as I was going, no one mentioned anything about Courtney House. A guy by the name of Ronan Galvin, who listens all the time, put it in on Twitter underneath the announcement. So there's telepathic stuff going on there as well. Paddy, did you mention anything about Aaron Ramsey?
I didn't, because I presumed he was on the next page. Is he?
No, I have Aaron Ramsey in midfielders. So the strikers, there's only 4 people on the strikers page.
Okay, well, I think Aaron Ramsey stays around.
Yeah, surprise. For sure. So there we are. There we have it. Paddy's selling Dendonker if money comes in. He's selling Coutinho if money comes in. He's loaning out Tommy O'Reilly, and the rest of them. Tony O'Reilly, that'd be wouldn't mind having that cash around the place. But Tommy O'Reilly is going out on loan. So the 4 boys up top that we've gone with, and I have to say, in fairness, we did incredibly well to get 7th place in the Premier League with 4 strikers. Like, now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that any of them are particularly bad, but for the contribution, there's only one man that really won, there was a lot in his shoulders this season. But anyway, we'll start off with a big favorite of this podcast. I'm going to claim that I was the first person to call him Bertie, even though I probably wasn't. Because I remember at the time, when he scored the goal, I remember when he first signed, I had a welcome Bertie thing up on Twitter for a while, if I remember rightly, and then I think I deleted it. And but anyway, we won't get into that. Bertrand Traore.
Out the gap. Bag of cash. If we can get a bag of cash.
I think if anybody is going to go to Saudi Arabia, I think it's Bertrand Traore.
Possibly.
No, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I think that yes, they're looking for this massive high profile player, and they're getting a lot of them at this moment in time. But they're still going to need to supplement the league with other players as well, because you can't have all these massive players and then like Sunday League guys, and that's disingenuous to the Saudi Arabian League. But you know what I'm getting at here? You can't have that massive gulf. In the MLS, you see it and because a lot of those players on the way down, it doesn't really work. If they do have 60 billion, which they say that they have 60 billion, the PIF, to build up that league, well then there's going to be a time where there's going to be mid-level players, is what I would call maybe someone like a Bertrand Traore come in there and see what they can do. Like
Of
Matt
course,
Doherty.
they can't continue to like the MLS learned very quickly that you need to have a middle ground with your squads, not just have your three marquee signings, marquee players, and then it's not much good when the rest of it is shit. And it took a long time for the MLS to come anywhere near that level. So they might learn from that model. But look, I just think, and don't get me wrong, I'll say it again. These four people that I'm making a judgment on, I'm putting myself inside the head of Unai Emery, which is next to impossible. So I just envisage that Bertrand Traore came back as a needs must because we sold Danny Ings. And I don't think he has full faith in him, and that's why I have that bag of cash there.
Yeah, I think
next one's the easy one. Big green tick.
I wasn't sure, Paddy. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure.
If I can call someone out, I have to say when they've turned it around, and I would put him up there in the group of 3 or 4 that we picked for player this season. When Unai Emery came in, it completely changed this man as a player, as a person. He just looked like a completely different man. So yes, the Unai Emery factor has absolutely helped him. I do believe that he will build that forward line around him. I don't believe that he will play every game next year because there'll be a lot happening. There'll be people coming in, and he could find himself doing spells on the sideline. But absolutely, there's a green tick beside him. He'll be staying.
John Doran.
I said
that messing because there's a John Doran in the chat from time to time, and I was calling him John Duran.
Well, Mr. Duran is hungry like the wolf. I just think he needs a little bit of experience. So for me, I'm going to give him that loan contract that we gave to Tommy O'Reilly to just go out and make a name for himself, see what he's made of, and we'll see what it will come of him. Out on loan, but it would be a really good loan for him somewhere like Vitoria Guimaraes.
I think he goes on. I think that they will try and get him a loan, but I think they'll only try and get him the right loan. Lest we forget, we signed him for 18 million. That's probably in our top 10 ever signings. For price wise. Seriously, absolutely. So there's a lot of loot went on him. Obviously there's nobody knows what he can do because he's been brought on for 10 minutes in games and told chase everything because, hey, young fella, go chase everything. And he's done it really well, and he's looked energetic. He's ruffled a few feathers. He's knocked a few defenders, knocked out a few old style defenders on their backs. And he's won things in the air. And I think next season, obviously Unai Emery was very honest about it. He said, we're not going to see a whole pile of him. And he didn't. He didn't panic and start playing him. So there is a plan for him, and I think it probably does encapsulate a loan. Now, Paddy, let's finish off with Mr. Bailey.
Well,
not finish off.
We've a few that are missing off the list, and we'll get to them in a minute. But I'm going to be true to my word and put myself inside the head of Unai Emery, and I think Mr. Bailey stays.
I think Mr. Bailey stays. I think we had this conversation. I think
I'm reiterating that's not my opinion. I believe that Unai Emery will keep him. Absolutely, give him another chance.
So, if Paddy look, I know, and it's fair to say, if Paddy was Unai Emery in the morning, he would be maybe looking to move Leon Bailey on. Is that right?
That would be correct. Yes.
Cool. And look, we've spoke about this. The only reason I say it is because I wanted to set it up because we spoke about it, off camera and stuff like that, and I suppose I'm of the opinion that once again a saleable asset. I think I know that people will say, he's very polarizing. Some people think he's absolutely dog bad altogether. Some people think that he's got potential. I personally think that Unai Emery will keep him. I think we need to add in the attacking areas as opposed to subtracting. But I also think if a team came in with 15 to 18 million, upwards of 15, 18 million, something along those lines, the club would be like, yeah, thank you very much.
I believe so.
I don't think they want to take too much of a hit in him.
Well, I don't believe he's done enough for somebody to come in and spend that kind of money,
That's it,
unless someone like Leverkusen gets a windfall and say, Jesus, we could have him back at cheaper than what we sold him for. So I can't see anybody taking a risk on him at the moment. And because we spend so much on him, I do believe that he will be kept there and given an opportunity. And if that opportunity doesn't arise, I think he will be shipped out at the halfway point or at the end of next season.
Yeah,
he's only got 2 years left in his contract, so something will have to be done this season as such before next summer.
I think that's fair, and like I'm going to also play devil's advocate regards to this. Like the 2 seasons he's had haven't been easy. He's had a season of turmoil after Steven Gerrard leaving, Unai Emery coming in. We had that very whether people agree with it or not, it happened, but that very public crisis of confidence he had. Some people can and look. It's not up for me to tell people how to think, but some people would say, "Listen, pull yourself up and get yourself together. You're a professional." But it's not that easy for everybody. When mental health is in play, and then the season before he couldn't stand up without pulling his hamstring. Just one of those things. So he's had 2 very truncated seasons. One from a mental point of view, the other from an injury point of view. So maybe it could be acclimatization to the league. Like, is there a lot of pressure put on players to hit the ground running after 18 months within the league? Most players do, and we know about it when it happens. Most players after 18 months. But I suppose context is king with a lot of teams, and if Villa can't afford to take the hit on him, or maybe if they say, right, we hold on to him and see if we can get as much as we possibly can out of him, and then admit it and say, right, we can take the hit on him, because this season we probably won't get as much as we probably won't get much more than we would get next season. Or as Paddy says, maybe he has a good start to the season, and then in January something opens up for us to maybe upgrade him and move him on as well. There's lots of ways there, but at the moment we're threadbare. We are very much threadbare with players there, and I think what you say is right, Paddy, that Unai Emery is going to keep him, and personally I would keep him around the squad as well, because pace is. I think he's moldable, and I think of all the players that we have, he's probably one I think that Unai Emery still thinks he can get something out of, because he's played him whenever he's had the opportunity.
No, he's absolutely played him, and to be fair to him, and I know I've gone in hard on him a number of occasions. To be fair to him, I think he had a decent end to the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw a bit of promise. Whether that's the weather or not, I don't know. Whether it's just a little bit warmer for him and he appreciated it a bit more. But Bertie's been told he's up. Oh yeah, PSK has also said in the comments that there's a signing happening on Friday.
There's news dropping transfer wise on the Friday, which is interesting. And PSK pops in every so often and drops in nuggets, and then about a week later we're like, oh yeah, who's the guy in the comment section? There was a time we were doing that. Now whenever PSK comes up, I think both of us are looking over going, I'd start that comment and come back to it later on, because there is a track record there as well. And PSK also says Duran has been put in a technical training plan by Villa staff over the summer, including video analysis and elements of development. I would hope so. I would imagine so, because the raw elements are there for him for sure. And I think we'll see a bit more of him.
Neil, someone has done an amazing body of work in the comments. Look what Matt Hanlon just did. So he reckons by what we're shipping out, we're going to make 98.2 million euros, and we can go and sign Pedro Conclaves. Look what he's done. He's added them all up. A whole lot of them. Matt, that's brilliant. Thanks, brilliant.
If we get 12 million for Bertrand Traore, brilliant stuff. And that's not me saying he's a bad player, don't get me wrong. I just once again, as I say, look, that'd be fantastic. That would be excellent if we were to get that money for him. Paddy, there's a couple of players. Go on, sorry. No,
I think if I get all this right, I think Chris Heck will be ringing me up and offering me a job, but I don't think that'll be the case. 98.2 million would be savage money to bring in for the club.
I think so too. Trezeguet's gone. There's a couple of comments there in Trezeguet. I think he did go. I think yes,
he's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Trezeguet's gone. Yeah, he was sold, as was El Ghazi. So they are. So they're definitely gone. Paddy, there's someone we didn't mention.
Keenan Davis.
There's 2 people we didn't mention. Keenan Davis. Yeah. What do you make of Keenan Davis?
I think Keenan Davis will if somebody come in for him, I think he'd go for a small amount of money, or if nobody comes in, they could rip up his contract for him. That's my opinion.
Define small amount of money.
6 million.
Yeah, okay. That's to me. That's not. To me, that's very fair market value for Keenan Davis.
Yeah.
You know, I think I was
I
thinking
honestly
somewhere
don't.
between 5 and 7.
I honestly don't think he. I honestly don't think we go into the season with him in our squad.
No,
So
I think
I
he's
think he could go for even less. But I think for a championship team to spend 6 million on a striker, that'd be a good buy.
I think so too. Cameron Archer, silly question. Low understays because I know you're not going to sell him.
I would definitely. I think for him, this is his breakthrough season. He needs to stay. He needs to play. He needs to be given opportunities. Otherwise, we need to sell him because he's done enough now away from the club. He needs to do it at the club.
Like if someone came in and said 21 million, I'll go 21 million just so that I don't pick a round number. 21 million
for Cameron Archer.
Yeah,
I think they take it. I think they would take it. On purely on a business from a business side of things, but I would be a little bit disappointed. I think we need to give him an opportunity because there's definitely huge potential in there. If we can pigeonhole him into this team, I think he scores a bag of goals for us. It's just finding. Well, it's not even that. It's about just giving him that little bit of trust, which I don't think Unai Emery is prepared to do. But I would love it if he became, a Jacob Ramsey or a Jack Grealish and go on and be an integral part of the team.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough. I think that is fair enough. And the last one, Paddy, this is everybody's waiting to know your opinion on the enigmatic. Well, we've spoken about Louis Barry, have we? Do you want to go with Louis Barry? Did you mention him? I know it came up in conversation, but did you give your full? Two people actually before my last one.
Yeah, I honestly don't think they see a future for Louis Barry. I think he'll go either way, be it on loan until his contract runs down, or they will try and sell him. But I don't know who's going to pay the money they'd be looking for. So I think he'll go on loan until his contract runs out, which I believe is the end of next season. And
does Wesley come back and become our Joe Linton?
No. I like you're struggling to get into a team in the second tier of Spanish football. I think the injury has taken its toll, which is a pity. I would have liked to see. The mad story of him coming back and being a success, but I think the injury has unfortunately put pay to that, and he seems to have lost a bit of pace as well.
And the big one, everybody is mentioning it in the comments, and by everybody I mean nobody from what I can see. Are we going to see a breakout season for Caleb Chukwuemeka?
100% no.
For the man to go up to Livingston, everybody went up to Livingston. Like, I can't remember what the exact quotes were, but go and find what the Livingston manager said about Caleb Chukwuemeka when he went up on loan there. Put it this way, Scotsmen don't mince their words. And this guy certainly didn't mince his words when he discussed him. Wow. Yeah. And it was after like only the first 2 or 3 games. Didn't he bring him on and take him off like 15 minutes later or something like that? Or he started him and took him off after like 12 minutes or something. And he just basically then said in the interview afterwards, he said, this guy's lazy as sin. In as much as that, you know. But yeah, have a look at it. Have a look at it. I don't know much about Caleb Chukwuemeka. He's done nothing. He was clearly bought to
keep Carney happy.
To keep Carney happy, and we see how that worked out. So he has 2 goals to his name as a professional striker, it seems. But anyway, that's Caleb Chukwuemeka. So there are a couple of the players. Now I have found, Paddy. I'm going to remove this and I'm going to bring up I'm going to share this screen because the player registration stuff. Let's look at it together. Please say I'm sharing. So this is the player registration eligibility, and this is for the Conference League. It's for everything really as well. So in order, so let's talk down through the eligibility for it. So we'll see what these are. This could be the boring part of it. It will be the boring part of the podcast. So we won't stay too long on it. I'm going to try and speed read through. So in order to be eligible to participate in the competition, players must be registered with UEFA within the requested deadlines to play for a club, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Each player must be registered with their national association as a player as playing for the club concerned in accordance with the association's own rules. Of course, each player taking part in the competition must be in possession of a player's registration license issued by his association or a valid passport or identity card, each containing his photograph and giving full particulars of his date of birth, etc., etc. Fine. And that's gas, actually, the referee or UEFA match delegate may ask to see the passports or identity cards of the players listed on the match sheet. You wouldn't think that would be a massive problem for the likes of Juventus and Aston Villa rocking up to play each other. But could you imagine Red Imps of Gibraltar playing against I don't know. I'm going to pull a team out of the back of my mind. Vaduz of, I think they're of Liechtenstein. You know, could you imagine the two of those teams rocking up in the ref going, I couldn't tell you who any of you are. You know, I'm looking at the team sheet, so I need to verify. That's an interesting one. That they actually may need to verify who the players are prior to the game. that would be an interesting one. Yeah, I'm going to come down through here as well. A player may not play in the UEFA Champions League, UEFA League, or Europa Conference League for more than one club in the course of the same season, so cup tying. Exceptionally, however, a player who has been fielded in the preliminary round or the first, second, third qualifying round or the playoffs of the Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League is entitled to play in the UEFA Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League for another club as from the group stages. So you can play in the playoff rounds or the qualifying rounds, but you can't play in the group stages. And then after that, then you're done. No coming back.
Which is a fair enough rule, because some teams get knocked out of Europe and their sellable asset is suddenly not so sellable. But it's an interesting one because I think that the Champions League or the UEFA Conference League second round or second leg is on the 31st of August, and the transfer window closes 24 hours later. So that's going to be one busy day for a lot of people who are knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it could be a busy day if we qualify to get some more bodies in the door. Exactly.
A couple of people saying that it's very small, so I'm going to try and blow it up here small, but I hope that's enough. All right, I'm going to move down through here to the player list because this is exactly what I want to talk about. So each club is responsible for submit. Do you know what? I'm just going to go to the part I wanted to talk about. So no club can have more than 25 players on list A, which is I should have really gone to the start instead of moving. Each club needs to submit a list of players, list A, and a B list of players duly signed by the club and verified, validated and additionally signed by its association. These lists must include the surname and first name, date, birth, shirt number, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So there has to be two lists, an A list and a B list, and they have to be signed off. No club can have more than 25 players on list A during the season. As a minimum, 8 places are reserved exclusively for locally trained players. And no club can have more than 4 association, and no club may have more than 4 association trained players listed in these 8 places on list A. So list A must specify the players who qualify as being locally trained, as well as whether they are club trained or association trained. So underneath here, then, a locally trained player is either a club trained player or an association trained player. Okay, so remember, we need to have 8 places for locally trained players. Of those, essentially what it is, you have to have 8 players that have been trained within the UK, within England specifically, and 4 of those have to be trained within the club.
So a locally trained player would be Jacob Ramsey, and an association trained player would be Ollie Watkins.
Or Callum Chambers, or someone like that. Callum Chambers would be... Emi Martinez would actually be an association trained player. Because of his time at Arsenal. Tyrone Mings would be an association trained player. So what we're really looking for is 4. So essentially what we're getting at here is there's a lot of talk about 8 players. What's the story with 8 players? There have to be 8 players with the club. It's 8 players trained within the association, which would be the English football pyramid, essentially, a professional pyramid. Of that, 4 of those would have to be trained by the club. And of those, I presume we would have Jacob Ramsey. That's why I think Cameron Archer stays around. I
Philogene
probably
Bidet.
think. Well, I'm thinking Aaron Ramsey maybe, and Tim Iroegbunam.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll probably see someone like a Jaden Barber, one of the right back, or Caden Young probably gets in there as well. Now, once again, a club trained player is a player, so this bears in mind as well. So this whereby the likes of Caden Young and Jaden Barber may not qualify. So a club trained player is a player between the age of 15 or the start of the season during which he turns 15. So they have to be between 15 and 21, and irrespective of his nationality and age, has been registered with his current club for a period, continuous or not, of 3 entire seasons. So essentially, we're looking at players. I wonder, does that mean that they have to be? So it says it here afterwards. So I was going to play devil's advocate and ask the question: does that mean that he has to be 15 or 18, or what's the story? Can he have been someone who's been at the club since 12? But we'll read on here. So we'll start that sentence again. So a club trained player is a player who, between the age of 15 and 21, and irrespective of his nationality or age, has been registered with his current club for a period, continuous or not, of 3 seasons, i.e. a period starting with the first official match of the relevant national championship and ending with the last official match of that relevant national championship, or of 36 months. Okay, any lawyers out here, that will sound like a normal sentence. To any normal person, it's complete and utter gibberish. Essentially, 15 to 21 over a 3-season period. That's it, really.
Well, let's discuss this example. So, Rachel has asked, would Tim count as he came through at West Brom Academy? My answer would be no, because he's only been with us for 2 seasons. Is that correct?
Tim has been with us for 3.
Has he?
Has he not? Tim was signed. Oh, has he been with us for 3? I don't know.
Talk away
If
there,
he's
I'll
been
try
with us
and
for
find
3,
it.
if he's been with us for 3, he has. So yeah.
I'm trying to find it here.
While you're talking there as well, I'll just clarify the question I was going to ask, and I said I'd talk on afterwards. So it says here, in context of this paragraph, the season immediately preceding a player's 15th birthday may be counted if his birthday is after the last match of the relevant national championship, but before or on the 30th of June, or the 1st of December if they play a summer championship game. And the season immediately following his 21st birthday may also be counted as well. So essentially, if a player is 14, then turns 15 during the course of the season, prior to, on the consequence that he turns 15 before the 30th of June, so in the first half of the season, that counts. So,
okay,
just to muddy the waters even more.
To answer that question about Tim Iroegbunam, he joined us on the 29th of July 2021, so that's only 2 years. So he would count as
an association trained
player. Yeah.
If a club has fewer than 8 locally trained players in its squad, then the maximum number of players on list A is reduced accordingly. So if you don't have 4, if you only have 3, you only get to name 24 people in your squad. If you only have 2, you only get to name 23 people. If you've none, you only get to name 21 people on your list of players.
Great fun.
Great fun is right. Yeah. I'm not going to go down through the rest of it, because I think that's probably the bit. That's what a lot of people were thinking about. What's the story with the with the registration, with the eligibility of players as well, and plus. I'm not trying to wade through that legalese anyway any longer, because it's hurting my brain. I got rid of Paddy. My tiny brain.
He says he needs to lie down. I think we all do after that one.
Yeah,
exactly. And look, a lot of that information was kind of half going through my head with those picking the likes of the Philogene Bidets to be still with us.
Good call. Sinisalo will definitely be in there as a homegrown player.
Yeah.
Good call out. Yeah. Just another one here, Paddy. I don't think we spoke about it. Maybe we did. I can't remember. Scott says, laughable UEFA for investigating our ownership of Villa and Victoria with everything else that's going on at the moment. Did we speak about that?
I think we did, yeah, and we said it was much ado about nothing because we only own 46%, isn't it, of Victoria? So they only need to investigate it if you've got the majority shareholding, which we don't have, so there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. look, we might as well make it the round hour, Paddy. People have asked us, or we said we weren't going to talk about the sponsor piece because we were talking about it before. Go for it. What's your opinion on the sponsor? Not just that it looks crappy on the front of the jersey with the yellow 8, but
Well, look, everybody knows, and everybody's of the same opinion that nobody wants a gambling sponsor. But at the end of the day, this sponsorship deal has doubled our last deal. It's our most lucrative sponsorship deal in our history. It allows us 13 million, I believe, is what it is, of wiggle room within financial fair play. I would imagine that the previous CEO saw that as a way of balancing books and getting more cash freed up. So my opinion is I don't want it, but we have it, and there's nothing anyone can do about it now. This is signed, sealed, delivered. Regardless of how it looks on the jersey, it really doesn't make a big difference to me how it looks on the jersey. Like, it's obviously, you know, there's people, there's families ravaged by gambling. You know, there's families ravaged by drink, and even because of that, there's no alcohol allowed on the front of a jersey. So this is coming down the line that it will be banned in 3 years' time, which, funnily enough, coincides with the end of this deal with BK8. So I think for the next 3 years, it's going to be there. I would have liked the club. By all means, there could be something in the contract to say that they can't do this, but I don't know whether everybody else has seen it. But Watford have decided to sell their shirt either with the sponsor or without the sponsor to their fans, which I think is a really good initiative. But it could be written into the contract that this isn't a possibility with us. So I think we'll just have to put up with it now.
For 13 million, Paddy, there's no hope in hell. I know Celtic do it as well, but I like, to be honest with you, there's no hope in hell Villa are doing that. Not a hope in hell.
The one thing that you will enjoy is that when we go away to play in Europe, it won't be on the front of the shirt because most countries have a ban already. So I don't know whether people like well, I shared out a video on Twitter over the weekend, which had 300 views on it. It now has over 2,000 views on it. If you want to go back and have a look, I'll tweet it out again tonight. It's Chris Heck talking about what he did with the Philadelphia 76ers. It brimmed me with confidence that he will do something similar with us further down the line. But I think for this initial 3 years, we're just going to have to put up with the deal that's there and see what comes at the end of that. I would imagine is going to be pretty special. And I would love to see someone like him bring in a sponsor with longevity, you know, like a media copiers that stayed for years, like what the big teams do, like what Man United do and keep them for years and years and years, like what Man City have done and keep it for years and years. So, and it's not a gambling sponsor. That's what I would prefer to happen. But there's nothing we can do about this at this stage. And no matter what we give out about, it's not going to change. So we're just going to have to put up with it for now, in the knowledge that I think this administration will change things going forward, and I think we will be dealing with a lot more sustainable sponsors and manufacturers in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to talk very briefly on it as well. You know, there was a piece went around. I think Philippe Auclair had something up about that there was a winding up order for their UK holdings company, which essentially has a pound's worth of trading or something like that. It seems like it's a shell company. I've been reliably informed by anyone who knows finance, or by people, should I say, know finance quite well and have worked within football finance, that all they really need to do is just provide a set of accounts to HMRC. I think, is that what they're called, HMRC?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently that's it seems to be much ado about nothing with regards to that one. But once again, I don't know. I haven't a clue. Looks dodgy. It's just bad press. You know, bad press is. It's I don't know. But for me, there's nothing I can do about this sponsor. And Paddy,
look, I think
after that,
I think with success on the pitch comes more sustainable sponsorship deals. So in 3 years' time, if we're a Champions League team, there'll be people queuing up to throw money at us, and we'll forget this even happened. But for now, while we don't like it, we're just going to have to put up with it. It's there. it's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, gambling does ruin your life. You know, we made a conscious decision to try and stop talking about gambling about 2 years ago, didn't we, on the podcast? So
We did, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we made the decision, and I suppose we didn't go into any, like, I had a friend who fell into a lot of debt from gambling. To me, I do gamble. I'm okay with it. I don't like. I'm not anti-gambling from that point of view. I do it myself. I'd be hypocritical otherwise.
mm,
But I'd I'd say if I've ever put more than 50 quid on something, once, I'd say, that's about it. And it's not something that I actively seek out, if that makes sense. But I know people who have, and like, I suppose it's just something that yeah, they kind of hit
yeah,
home, I suppose, when someone told me about their journey with it. So
exactly. And look, people lose their lives, they lose their livelihood, they lose their house, they lose their wives and children because of gambling. So that was the conversation we had, whenever that was, a couple of years ago, to try and back down from talking about odds and stuff like that. So while we might say the odd time, oh yeah, he's a first goal scorer today or something like that, it's something we actively tried not to do, out of
yeah,
respect for those who are suffering.
of course.
So look, it's not it's not it's not something we want. It's not something we want going forward. And I think it's great that I think it's the British government have introduced this ban in 3 years' time, that you can't have it on the front of your shirt.
Yeah.
So it makes life a little bit easier, knowing that that's coming down the line, and we won't have to deal with a big deal like this again.
Mm-hmm. Gary Howlett asked Prince William would be a good sponsor. Well, Gary, guess what? If BK8 get wound up, the Crown takes over the company, so therefore we will be sponsored by Prince William. So there you go. You might get your wish very, very quickly, because if they get wound up, the Crown takes over the company. So there's one for you. And also there was Adam S had one there. Adam S says, Neil, what product do you use for your quiff? I'd be afraid to, like, nothing. That's stress is what's keeping my stress and lack of sleep is what's keeping my hair up at the moment. I will say though, Adam, I was admiring it myself there as Paddy was talking. One or two stages I was going like this, and I was going, Jesus, it's stuck right up today. I don't know what the story is with it.
You're just showing off now.
I'm just showing off now. Look at that.
It's been a while since I had a quiff. I'm doing well to hang on to the little bit I have left.
Well, I'm very, very rapidly getting a sunroof here. So if there's any hair loss products that want to sponsor the podcast, I definitely wouldn't be ruling those ones out. And that's 100% for sure. Now we're definitely rambling. It's nearly 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. It's a school night. Well, it's school night for me. For you, it's not. And I think we're going to wrap it up with that. That was a pretty good exercise, to talk about those players. A couple of players got more conversation than others. But I think in the main, the squad is going to stay relatively intact. I think sales will be to generate funds. I think if you were to put a gun to Unai Emery's head in the morning, I'd say he would say keep everyone bar maybe one or two, because he wants to. It's going to be a case of addition as opposed to subtraction, and I'm okay with that as well. Also, just thinking about the UEFA stuff there as well. It is interesting to bear in mind there with regards to that purchasing players, and well, not even purchasing players, but I suppose when the lists are announced, we're not going to go. What I'm trying to say here is we're not going to go and buy 10 players and then not going to be able to register them all for European competition if there aren't players that go out. So that was I was trying to think of a clever way to say it, but it's too late at night to be able to do that. So bear that in mind as well. So Paddy, I won't see you now for a while. You're going to take in your detox from social media and from podcasting for a while, and well earned and well deserved.
Yeah, nice little break I plan on taking. So be a bit of downtime, and hopefully I'll still come across a few signings and be able to tweet every now and again, but won't be actively out there. Just need a break for a while.
Yeah, exactly. But this one is for our Irish viewers. Neil would look well on RTE. Put it this way, that barter account would have been completely and utterly dried out if they had gotten me on it anyway, that's for sure. And Adam S says 221 viewers and only 50 likes. Hit the like button, and I couldn't agree anymore. And on your way out, just hit the like button, and then you can close the podcast. It does us a massive favor if you do that. And if you aren't following, and you aren't watching, and you aren't subscribed, it costs you nothing to subscribe. It's It costs you nothing to click on the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell notification beside that, you'll be notified of whenever we go live. But like, it feels weird telling people that because YouTube has been around for donkey's years now, so most people probably know it. And it kind of sounds like that same thing everybody says, that you're trying to, like, it almost sounds like a sales pitch. And I'm a long time gone out of sales. So yeah, look, subscribe if you like us. Like it if you like the podcast. And if you don't, tell everybody about the podcast anyway, and they might like us, and that'd be nice too. So we're going to leave you at that, everybody. Thanks a million for watching. Thanks a million for listening. 18 days until we see Aston Villa back in action against Walsall. For those of you wondering if it's on TV, yes, and regardless if it's on TV, I suppose we'll be back with a team sheet tantrum for that as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to be talking about everything transfers and trying to go every day between now and the start of the season. So buckle in, and as I say, hope to see you around here for future podcasts. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. It's nighttime here in Ireland, whatever time it is in the world. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you again soon. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
And happy birthday, Kahuna Gaming, Vinny, our contributor from a long time, and up the Villa.
Oh no!
Put you off now, haven't I?
No.